You ever go to the House Progressive Caucus site? You can see it on the internet, what they stand for. These are Marxists. Universal health care, a progressive national security, climate justice, a fair economy. These are Marxists. And we've had a long talk about this. Pramila Jayapal from Seattle is the chairman. The deputy chair is Ilhan Omar. The chair emeritus is Barbara Lee. The whip is Greg Caesar. These are the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. They are economic socialists. They are cultural Marxists. They reject everything we believe in. I want to make something abundantly clear. Those who name call neocon and rhino and all that, you have no impact on me whatsoever. None. You're not conservatives. You're not constitutionalists. You're not capitalists. You don't believe in this country any more than these progressives do, these Marxists do. Because you would never catch me dead conspiring with these people, conspiring with these Marxist Democrats in the House of Representatives that hates your guts, each and every one of you, that supports an open border, that opposes real constitutionalism, that back Black Lives Matter, that back Antifa, that hate the United States military, that hate our police and their defund movement. How many of you would sit down with them and cut a deal? With AOC, with Ilhan Omar, with Tlaib, with Bowman, with Jayapal, with Barbara Lee. How many of you would do that and then claim to be a conservative? Would you, Mr. Producer? I wouldn't even want to be in the same room with these people. But I'm the big conservative, don't you know? I want to cut government. I want to shut down the whole damn thing. And if it means making deals with Marxists, by God, I will do it. Then you're listening to the wrong program. Goodbye. Goodbye. You're listening to the wrong program. Because you don't care about the country. That's not to say you have to agree with the Republicans. I've been sitting behind this microphone almost 21 years duking it out with Republicans. You know how Mark Meadows came up with the idea to try and remove the former speaker, John Boehner? He called me, and I went through the process with him. And I told him what the petition should say. And we went over it together. Remember that, Mark? Remember that? Why? Because John Boehner was trying to destroy the Tea Party. Because he was colluding with Barack Obama against conservatives. Because he was removing conservatives from committees like Mark Meadows. That's why. Nobody duked it out with Paul Ryan more than I. We were friends at one point when he was conservative, not anymore. I didn't change, they changed. Orrin Hatch. I've known Orrin Hatch since I was 24 years old. Then in his last term, he moved left. I criticized him. He called me on the phone. I wouldn't take his call. Ben Sasse ran as a Tea Party candidate. Then he threw in with Bob Corker in Tennessee to undermine, I believe, the country on its position on Iran. He called me and I told him, don't ever call me again. I don't work with these people on the Hill. I don't want to work with them. At the same time, behind this microphone, when Ted Cruz was at 5% and called me, we jumped in and fought like hell. Mike Lee at the convention in Utah, we jumped in and we fought like hell. He was the underdog. Marco Rubio, who doesn't even come on the show anymore. He'll go on every other show. When he was at 5% running as a Tea Party candidate, we jumped in to support him. And that made a huge difference. By we, I mean you. Taking on Mitch McConnell, I've done it for 15 years. He's a disgrace and always has been. You don't see all these people coming on my show. They're going on shows of other Fox people or the radio. Not mine. Because they don't want me and I don't want them. I know a huckster when I see one. I know a huckster when I see one. And for those on social media who haven't done a damn thing for this country, haven't raised a finger for this country, start trashing everybody else. Solid conservatives, Chip Roy, Byron Donalds, Tom McClintock, Jim Jordan. And I can go down a long list of Freedom Caucus members and other conservatives. Because they won't fall in line behind Matt Gaetz, who's a reprobate, who's cutting deals with Marxists. Then goodbye. I don't even know why you go on my social sites. You don't need to. Don't stress out. Here are the facts. I spoke to a couple of conservative Senate Republicans. I mean solid. And more than a couple of conservative House members. And I mean solid. On Friday, the Republican conference put up a bill, McCarthy. Listen to this. To vote to cut 30% to all federal agencies. 30%. And H.R. 2 to secure the border with mandates. The military, obviously the Border Patrol and Homeland Security, and the Veterans Administration would be held harmless, but that's it. That 30% would apply to the Department of Justice, FBI, the whole kit and caboodle. The main person behind that was Byron Donalds. Not the only one, but the main. There was a whole strategy developed, and I took notes during these discussions, between the conservatives in the House and the conservatives in the Senate. An entire strategy, and that includes the Republican steering committee with the likes of Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and so forth and so on. And the plan was to get this passed in the House, and the Republicans agreed to it, the vast majority. Shockingly, even the moderates and the liberals. Get it over to the Senate, where the Senate conservatives would use it to pound Mitch McConnell, to have leverage with Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leadership, so-called. but it was killed by Matt Gaetz and 20 other House members who got nervous, who got scared. The original 5 were joined by 16. Now, that's not even 10% of the Republicans there, but the overwhelming majority of the Freedom Caucus, the conservatives, supported this bill, 30%. And rather than these pseudo-conservatives on social media supporting those who put forward this bill, who had a plan to duke it out in the Senate, to finally hold McConnell and their leadership responsible, they killed it. They voted with the Democrats. They voted with the Progressive Caucus. They voted with the Marxists. Because they said they wanted to shut down the government. You just got a 30% deal. Now the government's open for 45 days. And nothing is cut. Biden, Schumer, McConnell, Hakeem Jeffries, and the Progressive Caucus got their way because they ran circles around Matt Gaetz. They ran circles around him. Because he has a hate-on for McCarthy. And maybe some of you do too, but you've got to put the country first. You've got to put the country first. You can't do Pickett's charge and then claim you're a serious conservative. You can't be a kamikaze and claim you're a serious conservative. You're not. Because grave damage was done to this country. Because if that had passed, we'd be debating a very different scenario right now. The ball would be in the court of the Senate. McConnell would have his back to the wall. The conservatives in the Senate would be pressing. All of that was killed. For what? The original proposal was 8%. But the Republicans said, you know what? Let's cut 30. Let's cut 30. That's what we said in May. Let's do it. And all but 26 agreed. 30%. Doesn't mean that we're going to get 30%. But they wanted to have, they wanted to put a flag in the ground. They wanted a marker so they could have a solid foundation on which to fight, an agenda. Now they have nothing. And Gaetz is the first one out there saying McCarthy is the Democrat speaker. While he's negotiating with the Progressive Caucus. The lowest of the low lives in Washington, D.C. That is a snake. That's what that is. And for people to cheer this on is to encourage that kind of stupidity. That's not conservative. That's stupid. And you just gave aid and comfort to these Marxists, to Hakeem Jeffries, to Schumer, and Biden. Giving aid and comfort by putting your own personal obsessions ahead of the good of the country is not acceptable to me.